I grew up in South Africa to German and Italian grandparents, but I also grew up in South Africa in a time that was really scary. It was a time of apartheid, it was a time of struggle, it was a time of fear. It wasn't safe to live there. And I learned to shoot at 16 because if people broke into your house, they were generally there to hurt you and rape you. Growing up in South Africa also gave me an incredible appreciation for the women of Africa. And I've really seen how they struggled to raise children on their own and what life is like for them. I was a Model A student, but I was also pretty lonely as an only child, and I developed an eating disorder at 15, which gave me a really low sense of self-worth. So when I was 18, I met my son's dad, and I fell heads over heels in love. I mean, looking back now, he was 34, I was 18. But at that point, I fell deeply in love, and I fell pregnant at 19. And then at 20, my son was 6 months old. And I'll never forget the day the police came and they knocked on my door and they told me that my son's father had been shot in a car hijacking on his way to work. I suddenly became a single mother overnight. I was just a child, basically. In 2012, I got remarried and I could not have been happier. Unfortunately, he wasn't the right person for me, and I discovered that I had married a narcissist. And for the entire period that we were together, he never worked, he never contributed financially. So I worked 2 jobs. I worked 16-hour days. I would have to come home and I would have to clean. I knew that it was time to leave and to get out of this relationship when I developed what doctors thought might have been a brain tumor. And he had an affair. And I remember confronting him about it. I was very hurt and very upset. And I'll never forget, he said to me, you know, you're such a selfish bitch because you could be dying and I'm just looking for a replacement wife. It took me nearly a year to, I guess, cast off the vestiges of it. Because he'd never worked, he had essentially left me with some debt. In Australia at that point, you could open a new credit card and you could do that and transfer the balance and not pay interest. End of 2016 was fantastic. I was debt-free. I loved my job. I had redone my house. I was back in shape. I was on a high. Life was fantastic. And I'll never forget 4 days before Christmas, 2016. I was at work and I logged into my bank account because I wanted to go off and buy some presents. I wanted to make sure I got paid. Time to do that Christmas shopping. And I found out that day that they had taken $100,000 in debt out of all of the credit cards that I had. They'd literally maxed everything out. I just remember breaking down. I was in absolute tears. I didn't understand how this could have happened. My son had seen the struggles that I had been through as a single parent to look after him. He got into some sort of scheme called binary share options. And I remember warning him and saying, look, be careful. He said, Mom, don't worry about it. You know, I know what I'm doing. I've checked them out. Famous last words. So I want you to imagine I was 40 years old when this happened to me. And I had poured every single cent I had into raising my child. And at that point I thought, look, all I have to do now is start saving for my future. And I had a complete nervous breakdown. Remember so little of the 6 weeks after that. It was one of the darkest periods of my life. I contemplated suicide because, to be frank, I did not see any point in going on. And I had been, by the way, to the FBI because the supposed holding company for this binary options company was in the Caribbean, and I went to Scam Watch in the UK, and I went to the Australian police, and every single one of them said to me, it's just too hard, couldn't be bothered, just suck it up. But one of the things that I have learned is that when you take everything away from people and they have nothing left, that's when they're at their most dangerous. And I was dangerous at that point because when I stopped grieving, I had nothing left to lose. I found a forum, and this forum spoke about this company, and it was a scam forum. So I put my story in, and I'll never forget, I get this ping on my laptop, look it up, and there's a message from somebody, and it was anonymous. And they said to me, I know who did this to you. Here are their details. His name is Shir Gadel. He lives in Israel. Here's a picture of his Facebook. So I wrote to this guy and I said to him, I know exactly who you are. This is your name. I know you've lived in South America for a few years. I know you speak Spanish. I know you've got a pink flamingo floating in your pool because I have a private detective sitting outside your house right now. If you don't give me my money back, I'm going to make sure that Interpol knows about you. Little did he know Interpol didn't care. And I said, I'm going to make your life a living hell. And you know what? I got a response within 2 hours. 2 hours. I can't tell you the relief that I felt at that point, because I knew that it was going to be okay, because you know what? He gave it back to me. It took me another month to get everything back. He panicked a little bit. I did something that the FBI said to me was impossible. I was told to give up. But I've learned that I can do anything. And I've also promised myself that I don't ever want anybody to feel that despair financially again. I know what it's like as a woman and as a single mother, never to have the freedom to make your own choices, because every decision you make is a financial decision based on what's good for your child. And often as women, we actually forget ourselves. We forget who we are. We forget that we are more than just mothers and more than children and more than employees and more than daughters or brothers or sisters or spouses. So my mission, I want to help 1 million women achieve financial freedom by 2030. My name is Angela Sedan. And if you feel that anything in my story has resonated with you, if you feel like you're lost and you need some help, reach out to me, get in touch, and let's talk, because I can help you.